Hello everyone, I invite you to the Friday cryptocurrency review. Let's start by checking the current situation on the BTC pair to USDT, taking into account the one-day interval. First, we will use the blue lines to mark the local uptrend channel that the price has left the bottom. However, after marking the uptrend line, we see that the price has rebounded from it in the current correction. Now we can move on to marking the places of support in the event of a correction. And here we have the first very strong support at the so-called fib golden point at $19,221. However, when we fall below this support, we can see a drop to around $17,577. Looking the other way, in a similar way using the fib retracement tool, we can determine the places of resistance. First resistance at $20,895, second resistance at $21,747, third resistance at $22,401. Then a very strong resistance zone from $23,086 to $24,029. When we turn on the EMA cross 10 and 30, we see where the moving averages intersect and the downtrend begins. Please pay attention to the CHOP index, which indicates that the energy has been used. The MACD indicator confirms the ongoing uptrend, while the RSI shows that the indicator has fallen below the lower limit, which may potentially be the end of the correction. As the second chart in today's review, we will check ETH against USDT, also on a single-day time frame. First of all, with the help of blue and yellow, we can mark the main uptrend line from which the price rebounded. Locally, we will mark the local downtrend line with the blue line. Now let's move on to marking the places of support. We will use the fib retracement tool to mark the support, and as you can see, we have the first very strong support at the price of $1,331, while when this level does not hold the price, we can see a drop to around $1,218. Looking the other way, we can also mark the places where the price should encounter resistance on the way to increases. And here we have the first resistance at $1,459, the next resistance at $1,513, the third resistance at $1,556, and then we have a strong resistance zone from $1,601 to $1,664. Please look at the CHOP index, indicates that the energy has been used. The MACD indicator is in a downtrend. On the other hand, we see a strong rebound on the RSI. We are currently touching the lower limit, which, similarly to BTC, may indicate the end of the correction. As the third, we will check the BNB chart on a 4-hour interval. First of all, with the help of blue lines, we will mark the downtrend channel in which the price is currently moving. Now let's move on to marking the support spots for the price. And we see that we first have very strong support at the so-called golden point of the fib retracement at $265. But if the price goes lower, we have another support at $245. Looking the other way, we can similarly determine the places of resistance that the price has to face. And here we see that the first resistance is at $282. The second resistance is at $293. And then there is a strong resistance zone from $302 to $310. The CHOP index indicates that the energy has been used. The MACD indicates the continuation of the downward trend, while the RSI has fallen below the lower limit of the range, which has now resulted in a temporary change in the trend. The last one in today's chart is the DOT chart against USDT on a 4-hour interval. First, we will use the blue lines to mark the downtrend channel in which the price is moving. Moving on, we can move on to marking support areas when we start a larger correction. As we can see, the price fell below the strong support at 0.6185b and turned back moments before the second very strong support at $5. However, when the price drops below, the next support is at $4.23. Looking the other way, we see that the first resistance is at $5.81. When the price breaks it, the second resistance is at $6.20. The third is at $6.52, and the fourth is at $6.85. Please look at the CHOP index, which indicates that the energy is slowly starting to rise. The MACD indicates a downtrend. However, there is a change in the direction of the blue line, which can give a trend change. On the other hand, on the RSI, we touched the lower limit of the range, which gave a visible price rebound. Technical analysis is provided by a third party and for informational purposes only. It does not reflect the views of CryptoDaily, nor is it intended to be used as legal, tax, investment, or financial advice.